Time stands still, yes. Yeah, is anyone tall enough to reach that and just take it down so that it doesn't distract me?
Well, why don't you just stand up there and just rotate it every minute for the entire class?
That would be a really cruel thing to ask.
Job doesn't pay well. You can't unionize, but...
If we can just put it where it's no longer visible, then it won't be such a distraction for me.
Yeah, go crazy.
Okay,
Keep working on
so let's go ahead and start with our hiragana doruru. This is the front page of the PowerPoint that we may not have actually looked at, but now you guys can sound out the top line, can't you?
Hiragana.
Right, hiragana, which is the name of the alphabet we've been learning, in case anybody missed that.
What's the bottom line?
Yeah.
What was the bottom line?
Oh, the bottom line is doriru in katakana. Katakana is the second phonetic system in Japanese, which we'll be learning in second chapter.
What's the word?
Doriru
Yeah.
comes from English. Can you guess?
Door.
Doriru.
Doodle.
Doriru.
Drill.
Drill. There you go.
Got it.
Right. Okay, so that's one of the main uses made of katakana is to actually take words from other languages and put them into something Japanese can pronounce and write it out phonetically.
Okay. Is it normal to mix the two like this, where
Yes.
one word hiragana, one word
Yeah,
katakana?
yeah, it's actually very common in a sentence. Let's say you've got a sentence about so-and-so is eating at McDonald's. The McDonaldo part would be in katakana. Yes, that's really what they call it. The verb tabemasu would have a kanji involved, and the other parts of the sentence would be in hiragana, except for probably the person's name, which, depending on where they were from, if they were a Japanese person, their name would probably be in kanji. If they were a non-Japanese person, their name would most likely be in katakana. Right.
So is katakana almost like, if you see katakana as symbols, characters, it almost is telling you like, okay, this word almost more like listen to the sounds more than the meaning, and it'll kind of give you the meaning, like computer.
Assuming you speak the language that it came from, then yeah, it's probably.
Okay.
So computer, yes.
And
New York, yes. Arubaito, maybe not. Because that one came from German, not English.
what is it? Oh, you said that.
Arubaito. Arubaito. It actually means part-time job in Japanese, but it comes from the German word for work.
Oh, okay, so it's not just English, it's
No, it's
other
any
language.
foreign language. Any language other than Japanese, if they borrow a word from it in modern times, they usually put it into katakana. The exceptions being if it came from Korean or Chinese, and it was written in characters in that language, they might very well just take the characters and then put a Japanese reading on them.
Because it already had like an
Because it already, so for example, denwa is telephone. It's written with the same pair of kanji regardless of whether you're Chinese and pronounce it dianhua, or Korean and pronounce it donghua, or Japanese and pronounce it denwa. You know.
Yeah.
So it's the same two kanji, regardless of which language group you're talking about. And so Japanese people can decipher some parts of Chinese and vice versa, but the grammars are totally incompatible. So it's not 100% comprehension. It's like, I don't know, 30% comprehension maybe.
Kind of like Latin languages. If you know one, you kind of can figure out, like Portuguese and
It's
Italian.
easier to learn others?
Yeah,
but
well, it's less closely related than that.
Okay.
So, you know, Portuguese to Italian is not the greatest analogy. English to Greek is closer.
Okay. No, really. Like
Yeah,
English to Latin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we've got a certain number of words from Greek. If you knew how to read the Greek alphabet, you might be able to decipher bits and pieces of it, but it wouldn't get you very far.
Cool. Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's good.
It's a little bit like that. So anyway, so hiragana doreru, let's run through our review together. A, I, U, E, O. Now I added something different in between. I've got some a gyo. Gyo means group or column. And so the words that are in the a group are a, I, U, E, O. Those are the letters that are in the a gyo. Okay? So here's some reading practice for a gyo specifically. So this is ai, aoi, ue, oi, ie, ie, e, au, oe, u, oe. Notice the two different spellings of this. I did that on purpose to illustrate that the o spelling exists, but it's not as common. The o-u spelling is actually more common.
And that gives you an ooh sound, right?
Yeah, it gives you an o sound, even though it's spelled o. When you run them together, it sounds more like o.
Okay.
Okay, which is basically the same as this o. And then the same thing is true with like a sounds and sounds, but I couldn't think of an example of an a word for this list that didn't include any other symbols. So moving on, we have ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. And kagyo words include akai, kai, kuki, koko, e, koko, koi, uki, kao, kiku, kaki, kuko, iku, keiko, eki. There's an example of that e spelling that sounds like an e sound. Keiko. Keiko. Yeah.
Station?
Eki is station, yes, but keiko is a girl's name. Hi. Hi. Ja. We have, what's this one again? Sa. Hi. Shi. Su. Se. So. And here's some sagyo words to work on. Sushi. I think everyone knows what that one is, right? Saeko, girl's name. Shio, shika, kashi, asa, sekai, koe, koi, aki, oka, ike, kaku, so, soko, asoko. Okay, any questions so far? Don't worry about meanings on these for now. This is just about pronunciation practice and reading practice. Ta, chi, su, te, to. Tagyo words. Tochi, take, tasukete. Important little side note, when you have a su or a shi followed by a k sound, the e and the u vowel sounds tend to get shortened almost to the point of disappearing. So it's not usually pronounced tasukete, it's tasukete. Okay? Tasukete. And you will hear that one shouted in anime sometimes because it means save me, help me, tasukete! Okay, let's do the next one. Chikatetsu. Right, chikatetsu. Kasa. Toshi. Soto. Katate. Tatsu. Sachiko. Look at that, sa and shi right next to each other. Sachiko, that's a girl's name. Au, kau, shita, eiko, Tetsuko. Those are both girls' names too.
Tetsuko.
Tetsuko and Eiko are both girls' names. Hi, Tagyo. Okay, next. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. Here's some Nagyo words. Shinu, nanika, nani, muno, nashi, niku, suna, neko. Hi, neko. Yeah. Here we have ta, hi, fu, he, ho, hagyo, hifu, hone, konoha, eta, tokui, fune, hoshi, hana, heso, hiniku. Hiniku. Right? Hiniku. Hiniku. Right? Here we have ma, mi, mu, me, mo, magyo, machi, mune, mise, mochi, matsu, motsu, machimasu, mochimasu, kami, musume, musuko. Hi, musuko.
Is that music?
Musuko? No. Musuko means son, as in child, male child, son. Okay, this is
Ya.
ya, yu, yo, yagyo words. Yume, yame, yomu, nomu, moya, oyu, yoyaku, yume na. Notice the difference between yume and yume. Hear the difference?
Yume.
Yume versus yume.
Yume.
Yume. Yume is a dream. Yume is famous. Right, this is la, li, lu, le, lo, lagyo words. Yoru, kiroi, hare, rekishi, arau, otearai, yori. Right. And we have wa, wo, and now we have words and phrases, so I could get the wo in there. So this is wagyo to, to actually means and.
To means
To
and.
means and between nouns. It only works between nouns for Japanese. So warau, wakaru, me o samasu, ki o tsukeru, shinri, shiron, han e, dainen. Notice the spelling here. It's perfectly possible to have a ha, ne also, but this is han, e. They're two different words. Pronounced the same, hane, hane, right?
Pronounced the exact same. There's no
There's no
breath. Or
There's
anything
no real difference in pronunciation. If you're transcribing these into Romaji, you would spell this hane. You would spell this one han e. You would put an apostrophe there to indicate this separation.
What does that mean?
I'd have to actually look them up. I just got these off of a list. They're rare words.
Yeah.
But I couldn't come up with good examples.
Right.
The only other example I could think of for this division was Shinichi is a man's name, a personal name. Shinichi versus Shinichi, which sounds like you're putting the number 4 with the word for day, but it doesn't work for 4 days.
Okay.
So anyway, so yeah, han e may have to do with half of something, because han is half, but I don't really remember. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that's a spelling thing that you want to be aware of, that there's a difference. And in order to get this versus this, if you're typing, if you just type H-A-N-E-I, you will get hane this way. If you want to get this, you actually have to type the N twice to get it to sort of solidify as this and then type the E. Does that make sense?
It's like if we have a Romaji keyboard.
Yeah, working
Okay.
from a Romaji keyboard, right. Yeah. Okay. So here we have our diacritic marks. Ga, gi, gu, ge, go, za, ji, zu, ze, zo, da, ji, zu, de, do, ba, bi, bu, be, bo, pa, pi, pu, pe, po. And now we have ten ten to chisai maru. 10-10 refers to the two little lines. They call them dots. Dot dot is 10-10. Okay, and then chisai means small. Maru means circle. So that's self-explanatory, right? Chisai maru, little circle. So dekigoto. Okay, try to read these with me. Dekigoto, jidai, gambaru, banpaku, kaba, gaikokujin, shinpai, mondai, arigatou, gozaimasu, gochisou sama, itadakimasu, tadaima, gozen, gogo, daigaku.
I recognize some of those.
Yeah, some of those, I threw in
Knock
some
them in there.
current vocab in here. Okay, and now we have our combos. Let's practice reading all of these. Kya, kyu, kyo, gya, gyu, gyo, sha, shu, sho, ja, ju, jo, cha, chu, cho, nya, nyu, nyo, hya, hyu, hyo, bya, byu, byo, pya, pyu, pyo, mya, myu, myo, rya, ryu, ryo. And now chisai, yayuyo combination words. Okay, so okyaku-san, kyonen, kyo, kyu, ju, minshu shugi, it's a mouthful. Shakai, densha, ryokan, kinjo, ocha, kyokoku-chan, kyoka, kyokai, jinja, chokin. Okay. Right, chokin. Did you notice the differences in length of some of those? Particle wa, particle e, and now we have chisai tsu to nagai boin. So chisai tsu, you remember tsu, right? Tachi tsute to. What we didn't get a chance to talk about yet is what happens when you see a small tsu. See how it's like 3/4 size over here?
It's a double
See that?
consonant, right?
It's the doubled consonant sound. It's technically it's called a glottal stop. It sounds like you start to say the consonant and then you have a little catch in your throat and then you say the consonant. Okay, so like kissaten, with the S's it sounds a little bit like a hiss. With the hard consonants like gakko, it sounds like you started to say the K, then there's a little gap, and then you say the K. Gakko. Sometimes it sounds a little bit like when you've got a really bad cell phone connection and it keeps dropping the ends of your words.
So
Okay?
there's a little break.
Yeah, so there's a tiny little break.
So
Kissaten.
Itadakimasu. Itadakimasu.
Ittekimasu. Ittekimasu.
Itadakimasu.
はい。 So let's read some of these together. So we've got 喫茶店、
喫茶店、
ずっと、
ずっと、
英語、
英語、
映画、
映画、
一回、
一回、
学校、
学校、
お母さん、
お母さん、
おじいさん、
おじいさん、
お父さん、
お父さん、
おはよ
おはよ
う、空気、
空気、
お兄さん、
お兄さん、
数字、
数字、
東京、
東京、
相談、
相談、
平和。
平和。
So the nagai boi means long vowels, and so obviously there were examples of long vowels in there too, not just small two words. So some of these make for very important contrasts. For example, Oji-san is a grandfather. If you leave out that second I sound and pronounce it just with 4 hiragana, Oji-san, that's an uncle. Whole generation difference. Same thing for Oba-san, grandmother, versus Oba-san, aunt. Oba-san versus Oba-san. Entirely different, right? Another important contrasting one, Shujin is a spouse, a husband, specifically. Shujin is a prisoner.
What's the name?
Somebody always asks that question. It's all in the extra vowel sound. So this is where it just repeats A-I-I-A-E o, ka-ki-ku ke-ko, sashi-su-se-so. So Japanese people, when they're talking about the whole alphabet, they tend to say it really fast. So A-I-I-A-E o, ka-ki-ku ke-ko, sashi-su-se-so, like that. Yeah. Tachitsute to, nani-nune no, kahi-fu-ke ho, mani-nune mo, ya-yu-yo, yaru-re-do, wa-o-un. Okay, so any questions about the hiragana themselves? Okay, I'm going to end that one for now. And I've got a second. Here, and sorry, I wanted to start this from the beginning, and I forgot to actually put it back from the beginning before I opened it. So, here we go. Okay, so dai-ikka, there's that small tsu again. Dai-ikka doreru. Dai means number. Ik is short for ichi, and it's one of the pronunciation shifts that happens with certain numbers. Ka is lesson. So, lesson number 1, dai-ikka. Okay, all of your lessons are labeled in both English and Japanese in your textbook. Okay, so this is lesson 1, vocabulary, and we're going to start drilling the vocab now. So, aisatsu, meaning the greetings. Tango, vocabulary. To, and. Suji, numbers. So we're going to get into all of that next. So, aisatsu, which is the greetings. Okay. Ohayo.
Ohayo.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Konbanwa.
Konbanwa.
Notice both of those use the particle wa. We can guess from that they probably evolved from some longer sentence that was used as a greeting in ancient Japan, and we just lost whatever the end of that sentence was. Okay, konbanwa. Sayonara.
Sayonara.
You will sometimes hear this pronounced as sayonara without the long u. There are 2 different alternate pronunciations that are both acceptable for goodbye. Sayonara and sayonara. Okay, this textbook teaches the long u version, so that's what I put in here. Oyasumi.
Oyasumi.
Oyasumi nasai.
Oyasumi nasai.
Arigatou.
Arigatou.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Sumimasen.
Sumimasen.
Iie.
Iie.
Ittekimasu.
Itakimasu.
Notice my translations are a little different from the textbook. I find this to be less confusing than the way they put it together. It's also more literal. Ittekimasu is literally, I'm going now, but I'll be back. Okay? Okay, ittekimasu. Itterashai. And this again is very literal. The itte is the going part, and rashai is from irashai, which means to come, and it's an honorific polite form. So it's telling the other person basically you'll be welcome when you do come back.
What's in the textbook? Because it seems to be, isn't this what's in the textbook?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Is this something they
There
would say?
are a couple that I've translated differently, but I guess these are the same. I don't remember.
If you're leaving like a store or a restaurant in Japan, do they say this?
No.
Okay.
Ittekimasu and itterashai are for leaving, and the
From like a
person saying
home?
goodbye from a home or a place where you belong. So like, if you're living at a host family's house in Japan, when you leave for school for the day, you would say ittekimasu, and your host mom who's not leaving for the day yet would say itterashai. And if, like, let's say your host sister left before you, she would say ittekimasu when she was leaving, and if you're still home and you were going to leave 5 minutes later, you would still say itterashai.
Just,
Okay.
it's like, Senator, I'll be back later, and they'll be like, all right, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so ittekimasu, itterashai.
Itterashai.
Okay. Tadaima,
Tadaima.
okaeri,
Okaeri.
okaeri nasai,
Okaeri nasai.
itadakimasu.
Itadakimasu.
This is one that I think I translated differently. This is thank you for the meal before you start eating.
Okay.
Okay, itadakimasu. Very often Japanese people accompany it with this gesture. Sometimes if they've already picked up their chopsticks, they'll just kind of sandwich their chopsticks between their hands when they say it. Itadakimasu. And that it's literally I humbly receive. So when somebody is giving you something, if you want to be really polite about receiving it, you can use it for that too. So for example, an award ceremony and you're receiving a certificate, itadakimasu, as you receive it. You know, or somebody gives you a gift, itadakimasu, as you
Like a
take
very
the
grateful
gift.
thank you.
It's a very grateful thank you, yes.
Cool.
Okay. はい、じゃあ、いただきます。And then, ごちそうさま。
ごちそうさま。
And ごちそうさまでした。
ごちそうさまでした。
The difference is just that でした added to it makes it more formal sounding. ごちそうさま sounds casual. ごちそうさまでした is more formal. And again, my translation, thank you for the feast, it's the thank you for after the meal. You've eaten, it was delicious, ごちそうさまでした. Okay? And you can say this one on your way out of restaurants too. They appreciate that, if they speak Japanese.
Is this said basically every time?
Basically, it's said after every meal. So if your host mom is the one who cooked, you might direct it more at her. But even if you're sitting down at McDonald's, you would still say gochisousama at the end after finishing your food. It's very consistent in Japan. They always start a meal with itadakimasu. They always end with gochisousama deshita. Even somebody who's eating alone. You know, there's a great little scene in a movie that I like where he wakes up for work early in the morning. Nobody else in the household is awake yet. He goes in the kitchen, gets himself his own breakfast, and he's sitting there, and before he starts eating, he just very quietly murmurs, itadakimasu, and then starts eating his food. So even when nobody's around to hear it, you still say itadakimasu and gochisousama deshita. Yeah, there are certain things like that that are just such ingrained habits for Japanese people that it doesn't matter if anyone's there to see or not. I've seen Japanese people who, when they're talking on the phone, they're bowing at the appropriate times in the conversation because it's such a habit. Okay. Hajimemashite. This is one that I translate differently than the book. We're meeting for the first time. So this is at the beginning of a self-introduction or when someone first introduces you. So somebody says, hey, come here, I want you to meet my friend Takeshi. And they say, you know, this is Takeshi, this is Cody. And it took me a second, but I got it. And then the first thing out of your mouth would be hajimemashite. And then something about yourself. If they didn't say your name, if they just said, hey, this is my friend Takeshi, then you can say
Boku wa
hajimemashite, boku wa kori desu, or some other variation thereof. There are lots of possible variations. Okay, but hajimemashite would be the first thing out of your mouth when you first get introduced. Or if you've been dragged into doing a jikoshokai, a self-intro, in front of your group of whatever sort, you stand up and the first thing you do is hajimemashite with a bow. So for example, you get a job in Japan and at the start of your working there, they throw a little party to welcome you to the company and introduce you to all your coworkers all at once. The very first thing they're going to want you to do after you've had a sip of beer is stand up in front of the room and introduce yourself. Preferably in Japanese, but they'll take hajimemashite, your name, and then a speech in English if that's what they can get. Okay, and then to finish that speech in whichever language, yoroshiku onegai shimasu, which I translate as please treat this relationship well. It's not just for self-introductions. Hajimemashite is only the first time you meet, and it's always at the very beginning. And it's very literally got the word for start or begin in it. Hajime is to begin. So hajimemashite is literally, this is the beginning. But yoroshiku onegai shimasu is actually also used in circumstances where you're starting something new together. Even if you've known each other for years, you've worked together before, but you're starting a new project. And so you would say yoroshiku onegai shimasu to say, I'm going to do my best for this new group project of ours. I'm asking you to please also put your best effort into this.
But it's also a New Year's thing?
Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu.
But don't they
But
also say?
then, yeah, kotoshi mo yoroshiku onegai itashimasu. Yeah, it's part of, there's like a standard paragraph that gets written on probably every nengajo, New Year's card, ever written. And it starts with Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu, which is like basically Happy New Year. And then kotoshi mo yoroshiku onegai itashimasu, which is a more formal version of this phrase. And it's this year also, please treat this relationship well. So maybe you've been friends for years, but if you still exchange New Year's cards with each other, you start it off with that. And a lot of times Japanese people just do these little, they're literally postcard size. And one side has usually an image of whatever that year's zodiac animal is going to be for the Chinese zodiac calendar. And then I think this year's going to be the year of the monkey, this new year. So it would have like a monkey on the front, and then on the back there would be one half would be for the return address and the address of the person you're sending it to, and the other half would be just enough space, depending on how big your handwriting is, to write those two basic sentences plus maybe one or two more sentences if you wanted to personalize it a little bit more than that, and a signature. And that's it. And that's typical, like, and they're usually handwritten, and it's a lot of work. So that's nengajo. But yes, yoroshiku onegai shimasu is used at the beginning of any new endeavor where you're going to be working with that person or doing something in relation to that person, whether it's a new friendship or whether it's a new working relationship or whether it's a new project with somebody you've worked with for a decade. Okay? Hyogen noto are the expression notes, and every chapter has some. So I just went ahead and stuck that in there so that you would know what hyogen noto means when you see it at the end of every chapter. Okay. Renshu, again, every chapter has it, and and it means practice, just like it says. And so when I'm talking about renshu, that's what I'm talking about, the section that comes after the grammar and the hyogen noto, where we actually get to practice our grammar structures and our vocabulary in conjunction with one another. Okay? Daikka, lesson 1. Daikka. Kaiwa, another header that occurs in every chapter. Kaiwa. Okay? Tango, there's always a vocab list in every chapter. And now here we have the tango for lesson 1. Ano. And this is really just and it sounds much cooler to use ano than to say in the middle of trying to say something in Japanese. So はい、今、英語、学生、語。So any language, you put the nationality name here and then go, and it means the language of that country. We do not normally talk about America go, just like we don't normally talk about people who speak American, although sometimes people use that as a joking expression. It's not really the normal thing to call our language, right? So, eigo, would be English. Nihongo would be Japanese. And then, of course, you've got Spaingo, Furansugo, Italiago, etc., etc., etc. Right. So here we have Nihongo, Koukou, Gogo, Gozen, Sai. Again, you put the number here and then Sai. And there are some pronunciation shifts that happen with various numbers in front of certain sounds. So if you need to reference which one is which and what you're supposed to change, there's a whole chart just for that at the very back of your book. And it actually lists the categories of suffixes that follow numbers that go with the standard numbers, and then for each type that has a different kind of shift, it has a separate column for just the words that have those particular shifts involved. Okay? So if you're trying to figure out how to put your numbers together with their suffixes, that's a very handy chart to use. So that's sai. Here we have an example of one that doesn't have a shift involved, nisai. And then san is a suffix after any name. Okay, for example, Yamada-san. Ji for o'clock, ichiji. And again, if you look in that chart, you'll find the shifts that happen for the various clock times. It's also in this current chapter because it teaches that. Jin. So again, America Jin, Mexico Jin, Spain Jin, Puerto Rico Jin, Canada Jin, Nihon Jin, etc., etc. Any nationality you can think of, just pronounce it the Japanese way. Nihonjin is our example. Nihonjin. Senho. Sensei. So desu. So desu ka? Daigaku. Daigakusei. Sometimes you'll notice that because the ku is followed by a se, this u also sort of shortens itself, so you'll hear people pronounce it daigakusei. Can you hear that there's a ku and a se in there, but the ku almost becomes just a k. Daigakusei. Denwa. Tomodachi. Namae. Nan. Nani. Nihon. Nensei. Ichinensei. Hai. Han. Nijihan. Bango.
番号、
留学生.
留学生、
Notice the gakusei part is still the same. Ryu, you can call it international student or exchange student. Ryu literally means exchange, so that's why I went with that translation, but I think the book might call it international student. I forget which
It
they
does.
use. So,
Ryu.
ryugakusei, same difference, it's used for both. Watashi,
私、
suji,
数字、
re,
0、
and zero.
0、
So on this, if there's more than one pronunciation for that number, I put them both on the same page. You'll notice that re is in hiragana, which means that it comes from a Chinese or Japanese origin. And zero is in katakana, and you can guess what language they got it from, right? Ichi,
1、
ni,
2、
san,
3、
shi, or yon.
4、
Both of those are used for four. Not entirely interchangeable because there are certain set expressions where one or the other is required. We'll get to those as they come up, so you don't have to worry about it too much yet. Just as we learn new vocabulary that has a 4 in it, I will tell you, use this one or use that one. Okay? Go,
5、
roku,
6、
nana,
7、
or shichi.
7、
Notice I used two different fonts on purpose, so you could tell there are two different ones. Hachi,
8、
kyu,
9、
ju,
10、
juichi,
11、
juni,
12、
jusan,
13、
juishi, or juyon, sorry. Juyon is actually probably more common between the two. Juyon, which is why I wrote that one. Jugo,
15、
juroku,
16、
junana.
17、
Again, jushichi is possible, but junana is probably more commonly used. Juhachi,
18、
jukyu,
19、
and then we have niju,
20、
nijuichi,
21、
and then I just skipped so that we wouldn't have 100 of these, literally. Sanju,
30、
yonju,
40、
goju,
50、
rokuju,
60、
nanaju.
70、
You'll notice shichiju is not normal. Nanaju is the norm. Hachiju,
80、
kyuju,
90、
hyaku.
100、
Notice that is the small ya. Can you
Yeah.
tell?
No.
That's one of the things I find unfortunate about this textbook font, is they don't make the small letters small enough for my taste. A lot of the print fonts don't, so you just kind of have to get used to looking for it. If you really took like a ruler or something across the top, you would be able to see that there is a gap. If the ruler was touching the top of the he and the top of the ku, it would not be touching the top of the ya. That's all the gap they give you, sorry. So that's hyaku. And now we have some clock times. Ichiji,
1、
niji,
2、
sanji,
3、
yoji.
4、
Notice, it's not yon, it's yo. Special exception, yoji. Goji,
5、
rokuji,
6、
shichiji.
7、
Notice it's not nana, it's always shichiji. That's what I was talking about before.
Seems like the shorter ones for time.
I don't know about that.
No?
It's sort of random.
Okay.
Shichiji, hachiji,
8、
kuji.
9、
Notice it's not Q, it's ku. Okay. Juji,
10、
juichiji,
11、
juniji,
12、
ichiji han.
1時半。
Okay, and that's the end of our slideshow for that. Hi.
What if it's like 1:35?
We are not learning that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, for now, they're keeping it real simple on the hour and on the half hour.
What would it be though?
When you get into the minutes, they have a different suffix, fun. And one of the reasons they're not getting into that is because fun is one of those suffixes that shifts pronunciation with different numbers. So 5分 is nice and simple, 5 minutes past. But 10 minutes is 10分 with a small tsu in it. 10分or 10分, there are two options. And a lot of the other numbers also alter it. If you really want to know, the hun is the H arrow P column in here, and you'll see that some of them say standard, some of them change to a P sound instead of the hu, and some of them alter the number as well. So it literally goes 1分, 2分, 3分, 4分, 5分, 6分, 7分, 8分, 9分, and then 10分or 10分. Now you know why they don't bother teaching that in lesson 1. And then all the numbers higher than 10, it just goes by the pronunciation of whatever the final digit is in that combination. So 21分 versus 25分, and so forth. So that's why they don't teach it yet. So they don't want to just have you give up in despair. Okay. So, are we ready to look at some other things then? Okay. So I'm going to actually close this stuff for now. Okay. So if you look in your textbook, let's start by actually looking at the hiragana practice segment for a minute. So 290ページですね。290ページ。290. 290 page. This is the start of your hiragana section in your textbook. Okay, so they've got some practice activities here that you guys should be able to do on your own. I just wanted to make sure everybody remembers that these exercises back here do exist and they are part of your homework. Okay, so don't forget about this part of the chapter. Right now you should be able to manage A, B, and C, and probably D, E, and F, G, and possibly H. The other parts you may not be ready for yet, because we haven't really talked about grammar yet.
Okay. You're speaking on this like it shouldn't already be done.
I have assigned it, but some people don't read my detailed notes about it. So if you've already done it, fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm doing like
Yeah.
whatever you say to do that day.
Good.
It's done before I come into class. That's
the way I want it.
Okay.
I just don't always get what I want.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm not doing extra work.
No, you're on schedule.
Okay.
A lot of people are
I don't wanna be ahead of
behind.
schedule.
No, you're on
Okay.
schedule.
Perfect.
Some people in past semesters have been way behind. This class seems more on the ball than most. So I have a feeling most of you are probably in better shape than I'm used to getting
Cool.
for, the semester. Let's also look at our Aisatsu page, 34 page. So this is the start of the Aisatsu section, which is not even a full chapter. It's like a mini chapter. Okay. If you don't have a book, can you find somebody to look on with?
Come on down.
Come down, you don't bite.
Well,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So when you see these, you've got your little diagrams to help you with the context. Any questions about these? Because we just went over them in the PowerPoint, so they should make sense to everybody, right? Okay. And you can see an example of hyogen noto. I'll let you guys read that on your own. Okay. The Renshu section on 37 page. Let's go ahead and just kind of go around the room and practice these. So if you're meeting your host family for the very first time, you could say,
はじめまして。
はい、はじめまして. Okay, and then you could continue on if you wanted to with hori desu. And then,
よろしくお願いします。
hai, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. So does everybody get how that would work? 37 page. 37 page.
10, 7.
37. 37 page. Hi. Okay, so Cody did that one. Okay. Jake, 2番 onegaishimasu. Try number 2. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You see your neighbor, Mr. Yamada. Which greeting are you going to use for 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
こんばんは。
No, it's not that late in the day yet.
Oh,
One
okay.
more evening.
Sure feels like.
So it'd be I guess you just are just konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Yeah, konnichiwa. If it's not twilight yet, konnichiwa probably works. Okay. Let's see. I just lost your name again. Help me out.
Me?
Yeah.
Kate. Caitlin.
Caitlin.
Whatever.
Okay. Caitlin or Katie, do you have a preference?
Either way.
Okay. Okay. 3番, number 3. You come to class in the morning, greet your teacher, and then greet your friends. Which one would you use to the teacher?
Ohayou gozaimasu.
Hi, and then to your friends?
Ohayou.
Ohio. Exactly. Hi. 4番, Jacob, right?
Hi.
Hi. On a crowded train, you stepped on someone's foot.
Sumimasen.
Hi. いいですね. Okay. 5番, Hunter. You dropped your book, someone picked it up for you, gave it back to you, so you could say,
Couldn't you say arigato?
Hi, arigato. Or if they're a lot older than you,
Arigato gozaimasu.
arigatou gozaimasu.
I have a
That's
question
politer.
about thanking somebody. All right, so you dropped your book and someone picked it up for you.
Hi.
Isn't there something with sumimasen and
Yes,
that kind
sumimasen
of
also works there.
it wasn't a
because-
trouble kind of thing? So no, it wasn't a trouble.
Right, sumimasen works as a thank you that also incorporates the concept of, I'm sorry you had to take that much trouble from me.
So
Okay,
wouldn't
so
that
it's kind
more, wouldn't that answer be
Sumimasen works
sumimasen?
very well there.
Okay.
Arigatou gozaimasu also works.
Trouble picking up a foot?
Yeah, so
Like a my bad.
Japanese.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
yeah, right.
Yeah, be like a my bad. No, it's fine. Like no
Yeah,
problem.
so
Okay, got it.
sumimasen, and then the other person could reply with IA, which is like, no, don't mention it, don't worry about it.
Cool.
Okay, so, hold on a second.
I don't know either, so.
I can't remember your name right now. Hi. Oh,
We take philosophy. That could have been a real thing.
yeah, and I got the wrong sheet in front of me, hold on a minute. Okay, Bradley? Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Okay, so, okay, it's 8 o'clock at night, you happen to meet your teacher at the convenience store. 8 o'clock at night, so the greeting would be, konbanwa. Okay, go ahead and say that for us. Hi, konbanwa. Hi.
I have a question about
Hi.
seeing somebody for the first time, regardless of the time of day. The
Hi.
book says that Ohayou gozaimasu is still appropriate if you're seeing them for the first time.
First time that day,
How does
yes.
that work? I feel like sometimes it wouldn't.
Yeah, at night it seems kind of strange.
It does feel strange.
But if it's like the middle of the day, it's not really morning anymore, but, you know, you're seeing them for the first time that day. Sometimes people do use Ohayou gozaimasu instead of konnichiwa.
It's more like the day starting, not so much when for the
Yeah.
person. Okay.
But, yeah, that's one of those where some of this stuff, you'll pick it up from context too. So if somebody else is using Ohayou gozaimasu in that way, you know, in real life, then you'll be like, oh, okay, now I see. You know?
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Joshua, right? Okay. Working on learning names, okay, Nanaban. Okay, so you're watching TV with your host family, it's time to go to sleep, so you say, anybody wanna help him out? Oyasumi, or either oyasumi or Ichiban. You're leaving home, so you say,
I just want to say welcome back.
I'm leaving would be
Don't come back.
Itterasai.
ittekimasu. Ittekimasu. Okay. And now, Marianne-san, you've come back home, so you would say, no, you're coming home, so you would say, I'm home, which is, tadaima. Hai. じゃあ、Julie-san, 10番. You're going to start eating. はい、いただきます. And Eddie-san, you finished eating.
ごちそうさま。
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 ごちそうさま。はい。はい、ごちそうさまでした。Okay. But one real quick note about the culture note in here, since they mentioned bowing and meishi, I just wanted to make note, just scale is all wrong, but pretend this is an actual meishi, a business card. You know.
Really trying to sell this.
Yeah. So if this were your actual business card, the way you would hand it to somebody would be two hands turned so that the writing is facing their direction.
It's a business card.
A business card.
Here, use my voter registration card.
Hi.
Go nuts.
Hi. Like that.
Arigato.
Right? And the other person would accept it with two hands. Now it gets really complicated if you're both trying to give each other business cards at the same time. And then it becomes like, you first you offer it like this with two hands, and then you take your left hand off to accept the other one while handing yours with the right hand. The reason you hand it with your right hand is it's politer in Japanese society, hand something with your right hand. If you can reach, you hand it with two hands like this. If you can't reach,
Why would you go to reach?
like you're far away from me and I'm trying to hand it to
Oh.
you, with my left hand on my elbow. Hi, like that. And
As a
that's
receiver, what do I do?
what you did, exactly right.
I imitate them and
Yes.
kind of do this
Same deal, yeah. If you need to reach that far, yes.
little curtsy
And
maybe.
this hand on the elbow thing, I know it sounds weird, but that is a leftover from when you had kimono sleeves hanging down this far
And you'd
and
have
you
to-
were sweeping it out of the way so that it didn't get in the food
This is
if
a
you
part
were
of it.
passing it across the dinner table.
There's an actual elbow situation.
So there's a real reason for that. It just doesn't make
Never
sense
know.
with today's modern sleeves.
Wait, this is like feudal Japan when they're wearing kimonos. Why are they exchanging business cards?
Well, no, anything that they
You know
were
why.
handing to each other.
Come on.
Yeah, no,
Some
that,
more
that would be an
than they
anachronism,
do.
but. Okay, no, but seriously, anything that you would be handing to someone else, if your friend says, pass the shio, the salt, and you have to reach across the dinner table and there's food in the way, you would use that gesture
My
to
gosh.
hand it to them, even if you're not actually wearing a kimono that could dip itself in the soup. Okay?
So baseball must look real weird in Japan.
That's a different story.
So,
Not exactly.
is it actually considered rude if like you accept someone's business card with like one hand like, oh, thanks? Like, is that actually rude?
That,
or-
yeah, that comes across as very, like,
Almost like our back.
you don't really care, you're not interested. You know, like, okay, yeah, I'll take your business card and toss it in the trash the first chance I get, kind of thing. That's what it looks like.
Says a lot, but-
So you'll see, like, in train stations all over Japan, you will see people advertising stuff by handing out something with the ad on it. Packets of, like, little packets of tissues and things usually, and like the back of the packaging has the logo and the ad for whatever company it is.
Sony.
Yeah, whatever. And they're passing them out, and people who don't really want them that much will just sort of grab them like that, or even just walk by without acknowledging the person. But if you're being polite
Or interested.
or interested, then you accept it with two hands if you're really grateful for it or you're interested in having a good relationship with that person. And if you can't reach with two hands, then you reach with the right hand and the left on the elbow.
And are people who do that on like a train like considered jerks if they don't actually take it with two hands, or is it just sort of like
No,
humor, like
if
like
it's
giving somebody-
if it's somebody handing out flyers, you don't have to take it with two hands.
Okay.
But if it's somebody you're going to have an actual working relationship with, or that you're going to see again, and you want to be polite to them, you do the two-handed thing.
Okay, gotcha.
So like the stranger handing out flyers, you don't know them, you're never going to see them again, you don't care about them, they don't care about you, there's no relationship forming, right?
Not
Right?
yet.
Yeah, the chances are that, whoever it is handing out flyers or packets of tissues that day by the train station, chances are it won't be the same person the next time you come through that train station, so you're never going to get to know them.
Now, are
right?
they handing stuff to you, all nice and sweet?
Some of them might be if they're trying to be polite and hoping
That
that
must be so
other people.
disheartening.
Yeah,
They're like, "Here you
it's
go,
like
here's an apple."
telemarketing. Yeah,
Very
it's,
nice.
hi,
That was very nice.
yeah.
Sweet. I always felt bad, like I can't read what you're giving me.
Yeah, well, I used to always accept the tissues because you need a packet of tissues
yeah.
everywhere you go in
I
Japan.
was looking for the people.
Oh, yeah.
All the congestion.
Because public restrooms don't supply toilet paper or paper towels.
What?
So you carry your own packet of tissues everywhere you go.
You tell them they expect you to carry your own toilet paper everywhere you go.
Packets of tissues, that's what people carry. Packets of
Are the
tissues.
toilets like toilets, or are they like that hole?
Oh, God.
Some of each.
like the squatting hole thing, is there a
Yeah.
bidet?
Very nice public bathroom.
They do?
I do.
They nice enough.
But
They don't have
a
toilet
lot
paper.
of the more out of the way train stations still have the porcelain hole in the ground instead
Some
of the
places-
porcelain seat.
I
Some
hear it's
places
better.
have both.
Yes, a lot of the, especially in the bigger cities, the public restrooms will have both. But if you're looking for the Western style toilet, it's the one with the handicapped sticker on the door.
Let's be honest, we
Yeah.
all use the family bathroom here anyway.
Yeah.
But it's awkward if someone who's actually
Yeah.
handicapped comes in.
They can wait their turn.
Yeah, so,
Well, see, what you
anyway.
do then is just don't give eye contact and walk away.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been through our numbers. What time have we got here? I hate not having a little
4:10.
clock. Okay, so let's look at the Suji exercises. So you'll note that these also have the listening symbol, which means that when you're doing this for homework, there are several different ways you could do this. One way is you can read it and write out your answers in hiragana first, and then listen to the CD to check your work and see if you got them all right. Another way to do it would be like dictation practice. Listen to the CD, pause it after each one, and try to write your answers. 何ページですか? 48ページです。48 Right. But even though it says read the numbers, I do want you to actually write these out for practice at home. Okay? So like I said, you can do it as dictation practice. You can do it as you write it out first and then use the listening CD to help check your work and see if you got them right. You could do it as a combination where you listen first for the practice and then write them out without listening, and then listen again to see if you got them right. There are lots of different ways you can do these homework exercises, but throughout the textbook, some of the exercises will have that listening symbol, which means those exercises, the answers are actually on your CD. Some of them, there's no listening symbol. Those are the ones that are more open-ended, where different people are going to come up with different answers. So you just have to write out your own based on your understanding of the grammar and vocabulary that we've worked on. Hey,
Now, as for the homework for when we turn it in,
Nice.
it says read. Do you want us to
I
write
still want
it?
you to write them, yes.
Okay, now another question
Hey,
involving that practice that we just did.
hey,
Where where
yes,
are we at?
yes, write out,
You want us to write this out?
yes. You don't have to write the English, just a word you would say in Japanese, or a couple words you would say in Japanese that would answer that
So
situation.
anytime it says act out, read something aloud in the book, you
In
want
the
us to
book,
write
yeah,
it.
I want you to write it, and what I want you to do is make very sure that you are labeling each of those exercises clearly so that when it's test time and you guys are all sitting here taking your written test and I'm trying to grade a dozen people's homework in 20 minutes, that all I have to do is look and see, okay, he did the greetings, he did 1A, he did 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, blah, 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 you know, so that I don't have to, you know, so like for these, Roman numeral 1, capital A, and then your answers for 1 through, or A through F, A through J, whatever that is. And then Roman numeral 1B, your answers for A through J. Roman numeral 1C, your answers through A through G. And then Roman numeral 2A. Yes. Yeah, so see how he, now he wrote the page number and the D. I would put the Roman numeral associated with it also, because I'm not doing it by page numbers. I'm doing it by, like, Roman numeral 1 has A, B, and C. That's 3 points. Exercise A is a point, exercise B is a point, exercise C is a point,
In the textbook.
exercise D is a point.
In the
Okay?
textbook, if we can write it in the textbook, if that's okay to write it
You
in the
may,
textbook.
but make sure you bookmark each of those pages
Oh,
for
well,
me.
I'm color coded here, baby, so.
Okay.はい、どうぞ。
Perfect.
Okay, いいですか? Okay, Michael-san, you're going to start us off with A, the first one. So how would you say the number 5?
Go.
はい. Okay, Hodi-san?
9, that'd be Q.
Q, はい.
7.
7, はい. はい.
10.
はい. Okay, we're up to F.
28.
Hunter.
I lost my spot because I was trying to put it
F.
here. Oh, got it. Hachi?
はい。はい。にはい。はい. Oh. You're on I, so
Wait, I?
she, yeah, she or yon. はい。Marianne?
BJ?
Yeah.
That's,
はい. Okay. Part B, the first one. Julie? Yonjugo. Okay, so you put the ju in the middle. Okay, make sense? Yonjugo for 45. Okay, Evie?
Can't remember the
Okay, hachi is 8, so it's going to be hachi ju san. And by the way, the reference is right there in that big box at the top of the page. はい、83 for 83. Okay, C, Michael-san. Okay, and for the teens, you actually don't have to say the ichi part, so just ju-q does the trick. Okay, ju-q. はい、Hori-san.
76.
はい、ジェイクさん。
52.
はい、ケイトさん。はい、100。はい、
38?
はい。なんか、
Rokuju ichi.
はい、そうですね。ブラッドリーさん。はい、24。はい、ジョシュアさん。
Which one, J?
はい、ナイムさん。
97.
はい、97。はい。じゃあ、ドルンジさん。はい、8。
This one place.
はい、CB. 9 plus 1, so 10 would be 10. はい。ジュリーさん。はい。
So,
0。はい。マイケルさん。You got the same number. 19 again. コーディさん。
1.
はい。
Uh,
ジェイクさん。
Ju 15.
はい、15。Okay, 質問がありますか? Any questions? はい。じゃあ、let me look at time again.
We're at 4:15.
4:15. Okay, we can do a few more minutes. So let's look at some clocks. Some clocks that actually read different times from one another. Okay, so Keithan-san. Okay, what I want you to do actually is read the example question, and we're going to get Jacob-san to read the example answer.
今何時ですか
1時半です。
Hi. So let's analyze that question and answer structure real quick. Okay, so ima means
Now.
now. Nan means
What?
what. Ji means time. So nanji is literally what time on the clock, right? And then des means is, right? And ka,
It's like a question.
it's a question mark. It's a verbal question mark. Okay?
Now what time is question?
Exactly. You do exactly what I like to do. I do literal translation sometimes because it helps people get the concept sometimes. And yes, the grammar order is very different from English. Sometimes so different that I tell people that once you establish the subject of a sentence, if it's a statement, get your subject down on paper first. For the remaining parts of the sentence, it works better to work backwards from the period, because that's how opposite the word orders are for English and Japanese. So especially as we get into more complex sentences toward the end of the semester, you'll find that it's easier to translate them if you just get your topic down first and then translate the rest of it backwards. Works in both directions. Okay? So, Jake-san, we're going to have you ask the question, and Hunter's going to answer using clock number 1 to answer it.
Here we go.
Okay.
今何時ですか
Good use of that one.
Sanji desu.
はい、そうです。はい。できました。
Arigato.
はい。じゃあ、ハンターさん、質問を聞いてください。You're going to ask the question, and ブラッドリーさん、2番、お願いします。
You ready?
はい。
Alright. 今何時ですか?
9時です。
Okay, except that Q is one of those that has a change of pronunciation specifically for the time. So, はい、9時です。はい。じゃあ、ブラッドリーさん、質問を聞いて、ジョシュアさん、答えてください。
今何時ですか
11時です。
はい、そうですね。じゃあ、ジョシュアさんとリンジーさん。
今何時ですかですか
4番。4。
Oh, okay. 7時
はい、はい。7時です。はい。じゃあ、リンジーさんとマリアンさん、5番。
今何時ですか2時半です
はい。じゃあ、6番どうぞ。
今何時ですか
4時半です。
はい、4時半ですね。じゃあ、7番どうぞ。
今何時ですか
I lost my place.
7番。
12日です。
はい、そうです。じゃあ、You're asking Michael.
今何時ですか I said this.
はい。
6時です。
はい、6時です。はい。いいですか Got it? Making sense?
はい。
はい。Okay.
少しわかります。
はい。
Not yet.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, and there again, I want you to practice writing out the question and the answers. If you feel like you don't need to write the question 8 times, that's okay if you like write the question 1 or 2 times and then write the answers for all of them. Later on, we'll get to some exercises where the question is going to be different each time as well. So I want you to
write it all out if that's the case. But for this one, you know, since every single time it's ima nanji desu ka, you don't necessarily have to write that question 8 times. Okay? Next class, we will start after we do a vocab review activity. We will start from B, where we're making sentences about asking and answering what time it is in various parts of the world in different time zones. Right.
Alright, so, obviously the next flashcards I'm gonna make are the, numbers and stuff, but I see
Yes.
times, and I see the minutes that you said we're not gonna mess with,
Right.
but it's kind of close to the next set of stuff we're doing. Should I go ahead and
Well,
do that?
these, what they call useful expressions, many of the chapters have a section called useful expressions. They are very useful, but they are not part of what I test on, so it's up to you. If you feel like you've got information overload and you can't afford to try to input anything else into your brain, you don't have to do the useful expressions. If you're feeling like you're ahead of the game and you really want to learn this stuff, feel free. That's why it's there, okay? But I don't actually include this stuff in the test. Some of this will come up again in a later chapter, but it's up to you if you want to add those to your list of things to study or not.
Are there countries, majors, occupations, family, is that gonna be on the test, or no?
I have tried really hard to limit what I take from the additional vocabulary sheet in lesson 1. Future chapters are going to have just all the base vocabulary taking up 2 sheets or more. But this one chapter, I feel like between the greetings, learning all your hiragana, and just the fact that it's the first time you've studied this language perhaps, I feel like this is information overload. So I try not to include much of that. A lot of that additional vocabulary does show up in a later chapter again.
Okay.
And then it will be required at that point.
And would there be a study guide or something for the test?
Not really. Your workbook homework is kind of a study guide because I borrowed some of my questions
Okay,
from there and from your homework.
cool,
But if you're doing all the homework, you should be in good shape.
perfect.
はい。はい、じゃあ、頑張って。